and how these changes and what do they mean in practice for SMEs. And this webinar is held by our CIRC-2-ZERO project. So I would like to begin with a little overview on our project with our project leader, Marina Weck. So please, Marina, go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And yes, welcome from my side also as well to CIRC-2-ZERO project webinar. And thank you all for joining us today. And yes, I'm very happy to provide you with certain information, and this webinar is actually an opportunity to learn more about the project objectives, activities, and the expected outcomes, and as well as also possibility to connect with partners, stakeholders, and experts who contributing to our project. So CIRC-2-ZERO co-funded by the European Union through the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program, and focuses on driving collaborative innovation towards decarbonization and advanced manufacturing in small and medium enterprises. So I will show a few slides about the project, and yes, I start with the project presentation and enjoy the webinar, and I proceed with my slides. Just a second. I will share them. Here, and do you see now? It should be fine now. This at least I think it's okay.
Yes, we can see.
About one moment. Okay, so as I said, our project is the name of the project, the Driving Collaborative Innovation Towards Decarbonization and Advanced Manufacturing in SMEs across the Baltic Sea region. So now slides are not moving. Okay, so the main objectives are here. So the general objectives to accelerate decarbonization and strengthen the advanced manufacturing capabilities. And this will be realized through transnational collaboration focused on the developing an innovative solution that support SMEs in achieving sustained decarbonization, advancing manufacturing practices, and in enhancing their competitive advantage and operational resilience. The slides are moving slowly. I don't know. Okay, so what is the project solution we are talking about? So this is actually the project solution is our main, let's say, general objective to build and to develop and deploy digital twin demo platform, enabling the simulation of circular product design and circular value chain design. Then Also, this solution will comprise certain digital tools and solutions to address the challenges of implementing circular economy practices and circular business models in electronics and engineered wood products manufacturing sectors. So we have two sectors we are focusing on during this and our development work, focusing on two industries. Then, of course, we also have, let's say, infrastructure which will support this project solution. So we built resilience transformation hubs in 6 regions. So this is the network. The hub will consist of the network of 6 regional hubs in Finland, Estonia, Germany, Poland, Latvia, and Sweden. So to foster collaborative innovation among scientists, SMEs, large enterprises, policymakers, manufacturing industry, clusters, and associations. So through this collaboration, the digital twin demo platform will be developed, deployed, and sustained. So, we have, let's say, we built also the infrastructure, future infrastructure to support our development work. Yes, here is our consortium, just briefly. So we represent 7 countries from the Baltic Sea region. It's Finland, Estonia, Poland, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, and Sweden. And representing different sectors like, of course, academia. We have academia partners from representing academia. We have partners representing business support organizations. We have partners representing business. It's Visula Electronics representing electronics industry, SME, and large company VMG representing engineered wood products from Lithuania. So we have a very, let's say, large consortium covering very well almost all regions of the Baltic Sea region. So, but we also have associated partners with us who are supporting in almost all regions, so we have 11 supporting partners representing different also sectors. Just a few words, what is about this actual project solution, digital twin demo platform. So it is a cloud-based digital simulation environment that enables manufacturing companies to test and optimize circular economy practices without disrupting their ongoing operations. And as I already mentioned, this will consist of 2 modules. Maybe more in this slide, you will see the features of these modules. The features what we are aiming at. Of course, this is the development work. This is the project we are developing. So this is, you should understand this is our aims. Maybe it will be through the development at the end, we will have a slightly modified the results, but this was our original plan. So we have a module dedicated for circular product design, which features material selector, disassembly simulator, life cycle evaluator, manufacturing process simulator, a scenario planner. And the second module, circular value chain design with the key features, value chain canvas tools, stakeholder mapper, flow analyzer, scenario simulator, and best practices library. So this just briefly about platform itself. I move further. This is also more explaining, this slide explaining more about those features. Maybe I also jump over because we don't have much time to go through all the in details. So then we just a few words about this resilience transformation hubs. So as I said already, it forms it is the network of 6 implementation centers across the Baltic Sea region and located in 6 regions. What I would like to tell, what is here is we can see the another slide how it will build, but mostly what I want to say, what is the deliver, what kind of service portfolio this will be delivered through this the resilience transformation hubs. So first of all, of course, they transfer, they develop the digital twin demo platform to manufacturing companies in engineered wood products and electronic sectors, and then of course provide expert advisory services on circular manufacturing practices, offer training and development programs to build workforce readiness, provide access to innovation infrastructure, including prototyping facilities, support business network growth and value chain optimization. So this is, let's say, general services which is planned to provide, but as I said, it's also development work. So what we will have, how we will develop this portfolio will be then maybe more specified at the end of the project. So here is the core team of the lead partner itself. Yes, this just maybe some ideas about the project itself and objectives of the project. Thank you. I will stop sharing.
Yes, thank you, Marina. That was a very good overview of our project. Thank you very much. And now we have our guest speaker, Sirpa Pietikäinen, who is a very experienced European policymaker. You have been a part of the European member of the European Parliament since 2008, and before that you were a member of the Finnish Parliament for 20 years. You're a member of multiple committees as well, and as I understood correctly, you're a strong advocate towards the transition of circular economy and sustainable finance. So we are very happy to have you here, and please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to address to you, and please do not hesitate to send your advice, commentary, or questions later on, because anything that I can do to support this circularity principle to get in practice in businesses and especially in SMEs is very dear to my heart, because I truly think that this is the way in the longer run to make good business and to save the planet. Before going to any of the substance, I will lay down a couple of the principles. McKinsey has done about 5 years ago, it was during the COVID, this kind of a very good analysis telling that then when the times are very uncertain, quite many of the businesses focus on uncertainties. What if, what about, I don't know. And it's like driving a car on the peas. You can't get the direction and you can't lead anything. So the question is, what should the businesses focus and concentrate at besides the unknowns and the changing world? And this is what do we know for certain. And you changed the slide exactly on the right time for reading my mind. What we know for the certain is that we only have one planet, and I wouldn't count on Elon Musk and to transform our businesses and livelihoods on Mars, because it's a bit of the principle, get it simple, stupid, if possible. So according to McKinsey and other studies, and you probably know it without saying, what we know is that our population is aging. The AI and digitalization is going to transform and disrupt in our economies. We know that even of these setbacks, most likely the globalization will continue and fasten and fast and getting faster, and especially the role of China will grow, and the rate in which China is moving up with innovations. We basically lost the health technology, the batteries. We are still talking about lithium here, when solid state batteries with natrium and magnesium is on the track on China. We lost renewable energy. We lost electric cars, and it seems that we are losing the ground on various areas. And then why is that? And actually this Hormuz sort of a hit for the China isn't as big as is seen. It's a short-term hit, but it's going to fasten the transition from coal-dependent economy to renewables-based economy. And then what we know? We know that we only have one planet. We know that the planetary boundaries has been passed, and we know that the climate change is accelerating the acceleration. And we probably see within 10 to 15 years things that we couldn't even imagine, like 20 years to be seen before 2100 and so forth. We are sort of approaching pretty quickly multiple dipping points. Okay, this is sort of the set. And then if you go up to the roots, what do we know? We know that the demand for resources keeps increasing and the climate change is accelerating. Here you can see the basic figures about that. We know, this is the next one, next slide, that we are not doing enough. And this is very alarming. On the right side, you can see what are the pledges and what are the actions done and where we should be. We should be there on the blue line on transforming our economies to be carbon neutral and actually carbon positive. That means that we would be taking out of the carbon from the climate. And the carbon crunch actually shows that if we would have done actions early on, they would have been easier. But now we are past 25. It is really a steep disruptive change that we are looking ahead of us. And this is not only. If you look another picture of these current actions are not enough, and the latest by EPC and James Hansen on the next slide shows that we are on the highest track on warming, and there are growing consensus among the science that we will hit the 2 degrees by 2030 and something, and we'll hit 3 degrees by 2040-45 if we do not make a significant steps, and we should be there on the blue line. And then this advice, first my advice would be, if the policies and politicians disagree with science, listen to science, because these basic facts do not change And then the politics is a variable. And of course, you need to look that and the market positions and everything. You need to look the stones so that you don't stumble on them on your way. But in the long run, if you only look on your feet, you end up swirling around or making a circle on your actions. So it is very important to look on the horizon and set the bar right. And what this set the bar right then would be, is actually being within the planetary boundaries. Still on the next slide, you can see the trends in atmospheric CO2 on global level. And actually what is alarming for us is that the figures are double in Europe. So 2 degrees means 4 degrees. And if we hit the 3 degrees, we will hit the 6 degrees in Europe. And what is forecasted is that already this 2 degrees hits 2% to -% in our GDP every year. And if we would go to 3 degrees, it would actually mean -12% in our GDP, and no one's business is going to be profitable in that state. And so what we are trying to do is to avoid that catastrophe. We can't avoid the 2 degrees, meaning 4 degrees in Europe, not even if we would stop breathing, but what we can avoid is the acceleration of the curve so that it would slightly start bending down. Okay, so what we then would need is to look not only the climate, but the whole picture. And this is the famous planetary boundaries picture, where we can see that 7 out of the 9 planetary boundaries have been exceeded. The safe environment area is the green one, and red and purple areas are where the planetary boundaries have been exceeded. And those ones that are not yet exceeded actually is the ozone layer. That is the good news, so that we can actually transfer the negative trends too, and the atmospheric aerosol loading. As ocean acidification, actually, since publication of this picture has gone to the yellow one. And why this is important is that we would need to look the root cause of all these changes. The climate change, what you can actually see there, isn't even the worst. And we have fights about the nature restoration, as you know. And actually the biosphere integrity is the biggest threat. And we are going to face, in any case, quite substantial changes and extinction in biodiversity. And if you don't care about pandas or other fluffy animals, I understand that, or even the small insects that can be found and actually are the majority of the biodiversity in animal world. The point is that the more climate change and more abrupt climate change we are facing, the more it's going to hit the biodiversity and accelerate the loss of biodiversity. And then again, we would need the biodiversity to survive these extreme conditions. As an example, if you have only one species field of oat or whatever cereal, it is hit hard by extreme heats, new kind of pests or drought or flooding or whatever. But if you have a multi culture seeds, you always can find a better solutions, or even better if you have a field with wild vegetation, it always survives because it keeps the humidity better balanced in the ground, and those ones that are not surviving the conditions might survive to rebloom later on, and those ones that survive sort of keeps the balance. And if we lose this sort of a multiculture basis, then when it hits, it's all gone. And this is the case with forests, and this is the case with the food, and this is the case of untouched areas. Then it is important to see that the novel entities, and this is very much endocrine disruptors, chemicalization, it's a part of the problem. And you shouldn't forget the biochemical flows. This is nutrition and the imbalances that we are going to see there. Okay, how instead of looking one issue at the silo, that is the new nowadays way of looking environmental politics, can be transformed to a system view, that you look for the root cause or the root cure, I would preferably say. And then we come to circular economy. Why we are in this state is that we are using more and more materials, extracting them more, using more chemicals, making products more complex, inviting new products, and because of the relative cheapening of the goods, actually we as customers can afford to buy new things and gadgets, and the lifespan of the products have been shortening drastically within the last 60 to 80 years. And so we extract, we use natural biodiversity, we use energy, we cause CO2, and we cause the degradation of nature, we cause pollution, and we cause pollution on the water. And so you can't tackle all the challenges by themselves. And then the answer needs to be adequate and on the root causes. And then I'm coming to the next slide, and that is the factor 10. Not a new idea, but it is forgotten in politics and in some of the businesses very much as well. You need to design out the short-termism, and you need to design out of the waste from products. By 2050, the human life, transportation, production and consumption must be within our planet's carrying capacity. So within 1/10 of the resources we are using now, we should and we have to produce same welfare and well-being for the consumer, the end consumer, for the company, for it to flourish, and for the GDP and for the society, that the economies don't fall down and to crash. This means that basically, in theory, all non-renewable materials should be totally in closed loops, closed systems. So the products would be needed to be designed, and products are buildings, they are electronics, they are transportation, they are the textiles, from A to Z, everything, with 1/10 of the resources. And sustainable use of renewable resources, and this is close to 10, factor 10 also, because you can't only substitute, let's say, in textiles, the polymers by plastics and basically fossils with wood-based, if the track to use so much textile is staying the same, because we wouldn't have all the woods in the world to sustainably used to meet that demand. And then we have many other demands for the wood also. And biodiversity I already mentioned, and in the future, and this is debated, how do we get this nature compensation, a bit like we have the ETS and the climate compensation. And basically, none of the businesses should degrade biodiversity or take new areas on use without compensating it with the good quality, better quality in somewhere else. And then, of course, operating without harmful emissions and chemicals. And this is the bar where we would need to go. And then before going to this, you can leave the slide there, going to this, how we are trying to get there, it is important to see that this is a shift in mentality and thinking. And the highest among other risks is the risks that we pick the sidetracks. And I call it usually a bit the diesel car dilemma. Okay, if we just make slightly better diesel cars, if they consume slightly little, if they slightly little cut down the emissions, and you double the amount of the cars, it's not the solution. You need to get out of the box and to think how I can fulfill this need to transport on sustainable way. Quite often that is service economy, and this is very interesting topic for you to think what all things you could service, because that creates a business benefit also. You can use more durable materials, more upgradable, you can design more upgradable products, and you can make them more modular, repairable, and use materials that you can then put, in many cases, more or less to close loops. And in the service, it could be also this kind of a digital services, and there's a lot of talk, as you might know, for example, the mobility as a service. Why do we all have cars? Not that is not used 70% of the time, and in quite many cases, even the figure is even higher. And this is in business-wise something very interesting. But then again, sort of a thinking that there's a miracle cure, like the carbon capture and storage, and you could continue with this kind of a fossil-based economy, that is a dead end. You end up in sidetrack and with the dead end that you can't get out fast enough. So always when you are making the innovations and you are doing the business, think, does it tick all these boxes? Does it tick the box of planetary boundaries, in materials, material circularity, in biodiversity, in climate impact, in also the chemicalization aspect? Can I use safe and well-known chemicals instead of trying issues that might be known already to be hazardous, for example, like endocrine disruptors for human health? And quite often when I look at businesses, you can, if you understand the concept, you can identify very quickly, does this business get the thing or doesn't it? And if it doesn't, then everything goes wrong. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get out of the sidetrack. Just mentioning biodiesel in many cases is example of that, when you could do so much more with the materials. And then when you choose the partners with whom you work, this is a good sort of tick the box exercise, because if you pick wrong partners, you can't change them if they are not changing themselves already. And the solutions, you are going to be dragged to the dead ends and sidetracks anyways. Okay, during the last mandate in the European Green Deal, we did quite a lot. Fit for 55 and Repower of EU was trying to make our carbon reductions more effective and to have more renewable energies and batteries. Just transition mechanisms means that we find ways to support the people in finding new work, education, very big part, and finding a job on these new avenues of working. And that, for example, if we talk about energy efficiency, we could start by supporting with public funds a bit, and by this kind of a public biddings and procurements with the social housing and elderly people, the renovation wave, and then go on for the first movers and the people that are better off and doing it anyway a bit later. And I haven't seen it happening basically, not in many of our member states. Actually, interestingly enough, Greece and Italy are pretty good on track on this. Finland, not so much. We renewed the climate law that sets the boundaries to be carbon neutral 2050. Once again, the notion that this is not enough. We would need to be carbon neutral by 2040 latest, and by 2050 we should be carbon positive. So it means that we have, for example, forest-based products or so forth that are circular, that actually bind the carbon out of the air. Then we had the Circular Economy Action Plan, and I've been doing that and a couple of the other reports, as well as the sustainable finance here in the Parliament. We had the biodiversity strategy. We had the actions also on farm to fork, how to transform our agriculture to be more sustainable. Well, there are very much talks and ideas, and I would be happy to continue if any of you would be interested about this subject, but there has been a lot of talk and very, very, very little of actions. The renovation wave targets to the idea that we would transform basically as much or 80% of our buildings being carbon neutral and energy positive. That means that you would integrate batteries, local energy communities, and of course the high voltage lines for the security, but also to produce more energy via solar panels, and for example, and actually the housing and buildings all in all are almost 30% of our energy consumption, and almost the same figure on CO2 emissions. So you can imagine how big change that would be. And actually it shows that when you start, you could do within 5 years a lot. And this is not what I'm seeing happening. We had chemical strategy for sustainability. We are debating PFAS at the moment and other endocrine disruptors and chemicals that induce cancer. We had an EU industrial strategy for net zero industry, meaning how we can support the transformation, because if you're on the old track and you want to transform, let's say, your steel industry like SSAB have done in Nordics, they need aid and support on this. Strategy on sustainable and smart mobility. Forest strategy, well, that didn't go that far. And zero pollution action plan for water, air and soil. And this again is a bit in headwinds at the moment in politics. And then sustainable finance strategy that unfortunately is actually not going forward during this political climate, because you would need to know who's doing and what. And sometimes everybody is saying, well, you need to cut the SMEs out of the reporting, but this is not a good idea, because actually then the SMEs that are one part of the economic system do not have reliable, comparable way of showing how sustainable they are. And there are a lot of innovations and good actions happening there. And actually Commission was preparing this kind of a, in quotes, nutritional tablet value basis, how it would have been easy for SMEs to report. Now, it is not unfortunately coming, but I would suggest that universities and some of the rating agencies would put their heads together and create it privately, because definitely forget the funding, investments and loans. Anyway, SMEs need to prove that they are on the track on the change. Okay, the Circular Economy Action Plan, that is on the next one, actually shows what kind of ideas was pushed for on this plan. It's reducing the household waste by half, extension of eco-design directive, and that actually went through, and this is very important because then it sets the bar for imported goods as well. And it included the digital product passport, so that you can find actually, and if you are sort of reusing the material, you need to know what material it contains and if there are hazardous substances and so on. Strategy for sustainable built environment, right to repair, that was accomplished. GPP, EU Sustainable and Circular Textile Strategy, that was accomplished. And now we are pondering whether we could set some more concrete legislation there. Extended producer responsibility and the electronics, batteries, food, water, nutrition, ELV, microplastics and global actions. And the Parliament position put there issues that are not fulfilled. One is the binding targets within the planetary boundaries of material and consumption footprints. And this is exactly to avoid this sidetracking, making too low investments and then actually double or triple investments when you need to renew and change the processes all of the time. In product policy, to have the principle of design out waste. Then extension of the eco-design directive to cover all the goods. This is still pending. And we did put then later on actions from the Commission about early or planned obsolescence in goods. And this is very important and vital for this kind of a single-use issues. And then digitalization is discussed a lot, and the discussion is continuing on. There would need to be product passports. That gives a huge opportunity to follow the substances, the crude, where the goods are when you are making a service economy, for example, in pallets. It's very important part of the service economy. But the digitalization itself is a humongous challenge because it's growing so fastly. And if not so much material dependent, that also it is a huge consumer of the energy, and that really would need to be solar based and renewable. Otherwise, there's no way how we can meet any of the climate targets. Then buildings, so we did have the construction material regulation that is gradually coming on force. It is under the ambition level what we would have needed, but we have a pretty good packing regulations. Then plastics and the single-use phase out of single-use plastics, textiles, electronics, cars, and batteries. Then very quickly about the history. The next slide, if you go on there, I'm not going to go there, but there are the circular economy initiatives, what I went through more in detail. You can find them with this name on the net, or I can go more deeply on those if there would be the interest, just to know that it needs to be also in details. And the only thing that I would pick here is the Green Claims Directive, so that what you say to consumers needs to be true. Then main sectors that are covered on the next one can be found here. Electronics, the information communication technologies, and the electronics is both the black and the white electronics, the household washing machines, refrigerators, and then of course more mobile phones or health technologies and so forth. And then the big issue where we are coming back is the waste management. Then just a quick glance on the next slide, and it is the EU's climate target for 2040, and you can visit it more closer later on if there's the need for that. But there you can see that even though we are acting too slow, we are more or less getting there. And what could make the extra is just what you are doing, the business efforts, tackling the root causes in big areas like textiles, batteries, electronics, circularity overall, and then the housing sector, that is a huge one. Okay. What do we have in this term, this mandate, and that is the next slide, is the ongoing and upcoming circular economy initiatives. And there we can see not so many unprincipled actions than what we had in last term. We are anticipating the Circular Economy Act, and I'm coming more closer to this one. We have Clean Industrial Deal and Competitiveness Compass and Competitiveness Fund that endorses that we need the fast transformation for green and circular economy. So this should gear the funding and EU funding on these sources also, and act as this kind of a principle for Business Finland's and other national funding instruments. Industrial Accelerator Act, then Steel and Metals Action Plan, more detailed issues on the same track. Then again, lacking a bit the ambition level, and we had the bioeconomy strategy, and now we are dealing with the Biotech Act, and this is a big arms wrestling again. About what do we mean by biotech and bioeconomy? Is it the old-fashioned, okay, you just take off from the woods and you just use, and paper is always better than plastic, and you burn wood and that is bioeconomy? Or are we really concentrating and trying the replacement from the bioeconomy? We can create batteries, medicines, textiles. Almost all sectors can be bio-based, and then if you put it under the sustainability loop and the longevity of the products instead of a short-lived products, actually this is a great help and ambition. Well, let's see how we can push it forward. Then the Public Procurement Act is about to come. It was promised already early on, but it's still dragging the feet in the Commission. And the debate is, can we put there really this not only by European, that is lobbied by the member state, but by European that supports Green Deal circular economy and decarbonization. And that should be the default option for all public procurement. And why this is so important is that the public procurement is actually the biggest amount of public funds that is used all over the Europe. And either it is used to buy the cheapest and worst, and in many cases out of the Europe, or the cheapest and worst European choice. Or then it can be enormous pull factor that actually would enable startups, new business ecosystems, servicing of goods and other kinds of solutions to scale up. And we are waiting for the startup and scale-up strategy also. And the public procurement is so crucial to get it right. And there the jury's out how well we are going to get it or not. And the Buy European sounds so good, but we need to remember that the cheapest and worst steel is European too. And coal from Poland is European too. So not all that is European, if it is this kind of a backward solutions and businesses, is worthwhile buying, especially not with our public funds. Then let's go to the Circular Economy Act, that is the most important and interesting part, and we have it on the next slide. This is going to be the main circular economy instrument during the upcoming terms. And it's a bit like the climate law is about the climate and CO2 levels. This is the resource law. And it should be the resource law. It's still under preparation in the Commission, and there the arms wrestling is very tough also. And let's see what we are going to get. But at least we are going to get the established single market for secondary raw materials. Because look, if we look for many new innovations and business ecosystems, if you do not get good quality repurposed materials, I don't want to call it waste, repurposed materials. If you can't manage and sort the materials in the units of the right scale might be very small in certain materials and certain products. So it can be very big, at least Nordics or Nordics and Baltics, like the discussion about the textiles and how many repurposing textiles massive units you need in Europe. And I do not have the answer, but definitely this is the question that needs to be solved so that you have a single market, free transport licenses, so that it is out of the waste criteria for these materials to be repurposed. And then again, it is a single biggest thing to get good quality materials in adequate amounts in different sorts, so that the next businesses using these materials can exist and develop and innovate. And the goal is to double Europe's circularity rate from 12 to 24 by 2030. I think that the target should be 80% by 2040, at least 80%. Why this? Because all the businesses need investments and they need markets. And this is, again, if you set the bar too low, this is not an interesting investment target, because you can't be sure, okay, nice idea, this kind of a material, this kind of a product, but is it going to fly? If we are still choosing and supporting in many cases financially, for example, public procurement, the first line used materials, if they are always cheaper than the repurposed materials, it's not going to be a good business. So we need to set this thing right in politics so that materials that are reused and repurposed are always cheaper than the first line, first use materials. And this again is pretty tough to get in, but we'll keep on going to try to push it higher to get the target to 80% on 24. Okay, then the next slide. This is as much as we know so far about it. That is actually sort of a more or less set. And then on the next slide, you can find what should be, before that one, what should be in the Circular Economy Act and what we are pushing there. So that it should be a framework legislation, that all single market waste directives and product passes and other bits and pieces, because it's an array of regulation, as you could see from the circular economy initiatives, should be covered by this framework legislation. We should set, I mentioned that already, the bar high enough to get the investments. It should be known that it is integral part of resilience and strategic autonomy, because Europe is, out of any continents, most dependent of imported materials. And we are the most exporting continent of our waste that actually could be repurposed in the Europe. So with all these insecurities in the world, and they are growing because of the climate change and the resource scarcity, this is a shared safety and security issue. And then these principles are on the strategies already, but it should be in the legislation that the product design should be, by default, design out waste principle. And the longevity, upgradability, reusability, recyclability, and modularity principles for products should be set binding in the legislation. Then we should end the endless discussion how to debate about the waste criteria and redefine usable material as repurposed material, so that we can use the single market competencies. We should put the VAT taxation, because it's a part that actually adds up the costs for recycled materials and goods and repurposed goods at the moment. And we should put the public procurement as a center tool to pull up these new business choices. And these principles, what you can see on the other side of the slide, should all be there. The tenfold resource efficiency, the targets and the actions should be science-based, do no significant harm, because if you do climate some good and biodiversity bad, actually is not the solution. It should be the extended producer responsibility. It should be system approach strongly, so that we do not look the issues on silos, and we should aside always in legislation to see the cost of non-action. Because quite often we see, okay, we need to make a transition. Oh, it costs so much. And on the other column, there always should be what it costs, what the climate change costs, what the biodiversity loss costs if we do not act. And it is roughly a tenfold cost. So anyway, this business to solve the problem it's bound to be profitable. Okay, I don't know if I have that many minutes time, but the rest is pretty quick. Just for your information, the Industrial Accelerator Act that is on the next slide, that is coming. It was the first Industrial Accelerator Act. There are just the principles on there. I mentioned them already. It is the made in EU low carbon products should be supported and boosting sustainable manufacturing. And to select, there's the principle to select strategic sectors as steel, cement, aluminium, automotive, and the net zero technologies with the possibility of extension to other energy intensive sectors such as chemicals. I would have hoped that the circularity would have been there, but that is not the case. Then the next one is the Public Procurement Act, and there it is just underlined that the sustainability, resilience, social sustainability and environmental sustainability should be a default while ensuring fair and open and transparent competitiveness of actors. Then we have the Biotech Act coming, what I mentioned. It will focus on industrial biotechnology and biomanufacturing. This is very interesting if you think of the batteries, for example, or textiles, or new medicines, or chemicals. There's an array of stuff. And so it is the question how we can sort of boost our SMEs to catch with the wave. And then how to strengthen the resilience of the EU single market there as well. So boost up, scale up the good innovations to be European-wide. And the fostering of a circular bioeconomy is already happily there. And then on the last slide before discussions, there's some funding possibilities. Of course, Horizon Europe is for this kind of an efforts of research, because we know there are a lot of unknowns and we need a lot of research, like the basic research and the applied research and the models how to do it. And then the Circular Bio-Based Europe joint undertaking is funding these kind of projects when the question is bio-based products. Then we have the European Innovation Council. Very, very little in life. I wouldn't go for that. We have the classical Invest EU. We have the European Investment Bank and European Regional Development Fund and Cohesion Funds. And it is very hard for SMEs to go for funding on there. And there I see a great possibility for actions like this that sounds really, really interesting, to see how applied applied science universities, it fits applied science universities very well, and the regional councils and whatever could form that kind of an organ that helps and facilitates and searches and uses the funding. Okay, I hope I didn't go for too long, and now hopefully there's a bit of time on your side for questions and discussing.
Well, thank you, Sirpa, very much for this overview and the future of regulation that is happening. We are a little bit over time already, unfortunately, but if there are any quick questions, we can of course probably answer those. So you can just raise your hand if you have any any comments or remarks on this presentation? Well, Minna, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. This was very, very timely and good for us. We are currently revisiting our circular economy roadmap at Kanta-Häme, and we are kind of have been doing the current state analysis, so what we have been achieving, but then we are kind of waiting this new Circular Economy Act that we will also reflect our regional plans based on that, and then there were other acts as well that were kind of addressing circularity. So thank you, Marina, also for organizing this and whole project. This was very timely from our perspective, and extremely good overview of the things that are ongoing. So really happy with the materials.
Thank you, Minna. If it seems so that there are no other questions coming up or comments, I think we can start ending this. I'm very glad, Sirpa, that you could take your time for around an hour to give us this presentation, and it's nice to know that you see that our project is a good one and one that should be done. It's nice to hear. Just the last question, Sirpa, is it possible that we use these slides that we have gotten? Is it possible for us? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Of course, you can use them and distribute them and copy and use it on your name or whatever, because it is public information.
Yes. All right. Great. Thank you so much. That is very good news. Okay. I suppose we will end this now. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar, and see you again, hopefully, in whatever measure it will be.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Same
much.
to you.
Thank
you,
you, Sirpa,
Bye.
for
Thank you so
everyone.
much.